locked in the basement. The truth left her trembling. She found Boston's most powerful man chained to a pipe, beaten within an inch of his life, with a bullet wound in his shoulder, and his own brother's name on his lips. The basement door shouldn't have been unlocked. Iris Caldwell was just supposed to clean the empty penthouse, collect her $200, and leave. 24 hours later, she'd learned the man she saved wasn't the monster everyone said he was, and the brother who smiled on magazine covers. He was the real devil. Sometimes the people we're told to fear are just survivors. And sometimes saving a stranger means gambling everything you have, including your child's life. Hinge everything you think you know about power, family, and betrayal. Iris Caldwell was running on 4 hours of sleep when the cleaning agency called at 6 in the morning. Downtown penthouse, vacant property. 4 hours, 200 cash, $200. Half her rent in one morning. She took the job without hesitation. The realtor met her in the lobby of a glass tower in the financial district. A woman with perfect hair and nervous eyes that wouldn't meet Iris's gaze. Previous tenant left suddenly. Just dust and vacuum. You have 4 hours. The penthouse occupied the entire 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Marble floors. Furniture draped in white sheets. Everything pristine. Too pristine for a property supposedly abandoned in a hurry. Iris worked methodically for 2 hours, moving through rooms that felt frozen in time. That's when she noticed the door at the end of a hallway. Plain white, slightly ajar, deadbolt hanging open. Basement access in a penthouse didn't make sense. Her instincts screamed to leave it alone, but something pulled her forward. She grabbed her flashlight and pushed the door open. The smell hit first, copper and rust and decay. Her flashlight beam cut through darkness, illuminating concrete stairs descending into shadow. She should have turned around, should have called someone. Instead, she went down. The basement was unfinished, bare concrete, exposed pipes. Her flashlight swept across the space and landed on something that stopped her breath. A man, chained to a pipe, collapsed in a pool of blood. His white shirt was soaked crimson, torn open to reveal a gunshot wound in his shoulder and a deep gash across his ribs, face purple with bruises, swollen beyond recognition. Blood everywhere, dried and fresh. Then his chest moved. Shallow, labored, breathing. Every instinct screamed at Iris to run. But 2 years of nursing school before her ex-husband Derek forced her to quit rose up like muscle memory. She dropped to her knees, pressing hands against the wound on his ribs. Blood soaked through her gloves. His skin was ice cold. Who did this to you? His eyes fluttered open, grey, sharp even through pain. His hand shot out, fingers closing around her wrist with surprising strength. Don't. Voice like broken glass. Don't call anyone. You'll die if I don't help you. I'll die faster if you do. The certainty stopped her cold. This wasn't fear. This was knowledge. Iris ran upstairs, grabbed her bag. She always carried bandages, antiseptic, basic first aid from years of patching herself up, where Derek couldn't see. She returned to find him watching, calculating whether she'd actually come back. She worked in silence, cleaning blood, checking pulse, pressing gauze against wounds that needed stitches she couldn't provide. He watched every movement. What's your name? She asked. Long pause. Wyatt Kane. The name detonated in her mind. Wyatt Kane. The casino empire. Forbes covers. The billionaire who'd vanished 3 weeks ago. Everyone thought he'd fled the country, or been killed. He was here, chained, left to rot. I was, he said, bitter smile ghosting across blood-crusted lips. Before my brother decided I was worth more dead than alive. Before she could respond, footsteps. Above them. Heavy. Purposeful. Wyatt's eyes widened. Hide. Now. But there was nowhere to hide. The footsteps reached the door. Started down the stairs. Light snapped on. Harsh fluorescent brightness. Iris squinted and looked up. A man stood at the bottom of the stairs. Tall. Tailored black coat. Same grey eyes as Wyatt, but colder. Phone to his ear. His expression shifted from surprise to rage as he registered the scene. Who the fuck are you? Iris scrambled up, heart hammering. Sir, I'm the cleaner. The realtor sent me. I just got here. Checking for water damage. I haven't seen anything. You're covered in blood. He descended slowly, predatory. And you haven't seen anything. His hand closed around her throat, slammed her against concrete, head cracking against stone. Stars exploded, his face inches from hers. You people always think you can stumble where you don't belong. Who's going to believe a cleaning lady over me? Iris clawed at his hand, gasping. Please, I have a son. Something flickered. Not mercy. Calculation. He released her, sent her sprawling. Talk to anyone. Police, press, your priest and I destroy everything. You're Your job, apartment, your son's school, everything. Understand? She nodded, tears streaming. I won't say anything. Good. He straightened his coat. Get out. If I see you again, you end up worse than him. Iris ran. Upstairs, through penthouse, into elevator, hands shaking so hard, she dropped keys twice. Burst into morning sunlight, threw herself into her car, drove without looking back. But Wyatt's grey eyes followed her, sharp, knowing, filled with pain, and something that looked like hope. That night, Ethan asleep, Iris sat on her bed staring at the ceiling, throat aching, where Preston Kane had grabbed her, hands smelling like blood, no matter how many times she washed. Wyatt's voice echoed, "Don't call anyone. I'll die faster if you do." He knew his brother would kill him, knew no one was coming, had accepted he'd die chained in the dark. Iris closed her eyes, and saw Derek, saw herself at 22, covering bruises, making excuses. She'd been trapped too, bleeding, praying someone would help. No one had. She couldn't be that person. Couldn't walk away wondering if he'd died alone, because she was too afraid. Decision crystallized. Heavy, certain. Tomorrow she would return. Iris woke before sunrise, after barely 3 hours of sleep. Her throat still ached where Preston's fingers had crushed her windpipe, the bruises already darkening to purple. She stood in her cramped bathroom, staring at the marks in the mirror, then opened the medicine cabinet with shaking hands. Bandages, antiseptic, the bottle of antibiotics left over from when Ethan had strep throat 3 months ago. Fever reducer, cotton swabs. She added 2 bottles of water and protein bars to an old canvas bag, her mind screaming that this was insane, while her hands kept moving. Around 8, she knocked on Mrs. Chen's door. The elderly neighbor answered with her usual warm smile, already dressed, despite the early hour. "I got called for a cleaning job in the suburbs," Iris said, forcing her voice steady. "Might run late. Could you watch Ethan?" Mrs. Chen waved her off. "Go work, honey. Don't worry about the boy. He'll be fine with me." Iris hugged Ethan tight before leaving, breathing in the scent of his strawberry shampoo. If something happened today, this might be the last time. The thought stabbed through her chest, but she walked out anyway. She drove to the building around 5 in the evening, parking 2 blocks away, and watching for an hour to make sure no cars occupied the private lot, no shadows moved behind the windows. Preston wasn't here, at least not right now. The back service entrance had an old lock she forced open with a credit card, and determination born of desperation. Her heart hammered as she descended the basement stairs, flashlight cutting through darkness that smelled like rust and dying. Wyatt was still there, exactly where she'd left him yesterday, like he hadn't had the strength to move even an inch. But something was different. His face was flushed, sweat soaking his hair and shirt. Heat radiated from him, even before she touched his forehead. Fever. The wound had infected. He was delirious, lips moving around words that made no sense, eyes rolling beneath closed lids. Iris moved on pure instinct, cutting away the makeshift bandages she'd applied yesterday. The wound on his ribs was swollen, red, pus beginning to form at the edges. The smell made her gag. She cleaned it with saline, her hands steadier than they had any right to be. Applied antiseptic that made him groan even in his unconscious state. Dusted antibiotic powder over the wound, before wrapping it fresh. The gunshot in his shoulder looked better, but still angry. She treated that too. 2 fever reducer pills crushed and mixed with water. She lifted his head, forced the mixture past his cracked lips 1 careful sip at a time. Most spilled down his chin, but some went down. Then she sat beside him for an hour, changing the cool cloth on his forehead every few minutes, watching his breathing, monitoring his pulse. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, the fever began to ease. The flush faded from his cheeks, his breathing steadied. Those grey eyes opened. At first they were clouded, unfocused. Then they found her face, and something cleared. Surprise, confusion, disbelief. "You came back." Not a question. A statement of shocked wonder. Iris nodded, wringing out the cloth. "I told you. I know what it feels like to be left in the dark." Wyatt didn't speak, just stared at her like she was something he couldn't quite comprehend. A puzzle that didn't fit his understanding of how the world worked. In his life, people stayed for power, money, fear, not for simple human decency. Why? His voice was barely a whisper, raw from fever and thirst. "Because no one came for me when I needed it." Iris met his eyes. "I can't be that person for someone else." She stood as the sky began darkening. She couldn't stay longer. Ethan was waiting, and Preston could return any moment. But as she turned to go, a hand closed around her wrist. Light, weak, but strong enough to stop her. "Tomorrow," Wyatt said. Not an order, a plea from someone drowning. Same time, Iris looked at his hand on her wrist, at the desperation barely hidden beneath his controlled exterior. She nodded. Tomorrow. On the third day, Wyatt was better. The fever had broken completely. His grey eyes were sharp again, exhaustion still marking his face, but clarity returned. He could sit with his back against the wall now, though every movement made him wince. Iris sat across from him on the concrete floor, changing the bandage on his ribs. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unasked questions. Why? She finally asked. Why would your brother do this? Wyatt stared at the dead bulb hanging from the ceiling. When he spoke, his voice was distant. Preston is my half-brother. Same father, different mothers. My father beat Preston's mother until she left. Then he married my mother, and treated me like a prince, while Preston stood outside looking in. Always the bastard son. Never good enough. That wasn't your fault. No, but I never tried to change it either. Bitter laugh. I had everything. Didn't realize he had nothing until it was too late. He fell silent, then continued. 3 weeks ago, Preston called. Said he wanted to meet about family business. His voice sounded sincere. I believed him. Went alone without security. Biggest mistake of my life. Iris listened, her chest tightening. Roman Volkov's men were waiting. Rival family. I've been fighting for years. They shot me before I could react. He touched the shoulder wound. I went down. Thought I was dead. Then Preston stepped forward. His eyes met hers, empty. Pulled out a knife, and stabbed me. One strike. Deep, but not deep enough to kill. Didn't have the nerve to finish it. Just watched me bleed, then ordered his people to drag me here. Iris felt sick. Your own brother. The bullet was business, Wyatt said, voice cold. But the knife, that was personal, and he still couldn't see it through. Silence settled. Then Wyatt asked the question burning in his eyes. Why are you here? What do you want from me? Nothing. Iris's answer was immediate. I want nothing. Everyone wants something. I'm not everyone. She met his gaze. I'm just someone who couldn't walk away. On the 5th day, Iris arrived as usual around 5. Wyatt was stronger, could sit up without help. She was changing his bandages when she heard it. Car engine, tires on gravel, door slamming. Her blood turned to ice. Wyatt's reaction was instant. Hide, now. Iris grabbed her medical bag, shoved it under a tarp in the corner, then squeezed behind a stack of cardboard boxes barely big enough to conceal her. Wyatt lowered himself to the floor, closed his eyes, let his body go slack like he was comatose. Heavy footsteps descended. Light snapped on, harsh and blinding. Preston walked into the basement, looking different from before. Same expensive suit, same cold posture, but smugness now. Like he'd won. Like everything was unfolding exactly as planned. He walked straight to Wyatt, and kicked him hard in the ribs. Right where the wound was. Wyatt didn't react. Didn't even flinch, though Iris knew that kick must have been agony. Preston spat on him. Pathetic. The king of Boston. Look at you now. His phone rang. Voice changed completely smooth, respectful. Roman. Yes, everything's ready. Transfer meeting in 5 days. He'll be dead before then. Nobody's coming. Iris pressed deeper into shadow, forcing herself not to breathe. Preston paused mid-conversation, drew a long breath, nose wrinkling. There's a smell. Hold on. He scanned the basement. Cheap soap. Someone's been here. Iris's heart nearly exploded. The soap from this morning, still on her skin, in her hair. Preston started circling, hunting. His footsteps came closer. Closer. Stopped right in front of the boxes. Iris shut her eyes, flattening against the wall. This was it. Noah would lose his mother. Everything for nothing. Preston's phone rang again. He cursed softly, turned away to answer. Yeah, run that name. Iris Caldwell, 412 Grove Street, apartment 3C. Kid at Jefferson Elementary. Ethan, 7 years old. Pause. Cold laugh that made Iris's blood freeze. Not yet. But if someone's poking around, you start with the kid. Mothers break faster when their children get touched. He left. Door slamming. Engine fading. Iris stumbled from hiding, face white, body shaking. Wyatt opened his eyes, watching her. You have to stop coming, he said. Run, now. She shook her head. He knows my address. Ethan's school. Running won't save me. Wyatt watched her for a long moment. Something shifted in his eyes. Not just survival anymore, but protection. Resolve. 5 days, he said, voice like steel. That's all I need. I'll get you out of this, both of you. On the 6th day, Wyatt could sit up without Iris bracing him. The wounds were healing, slowly but surely. He leaned against the cold concrete wall, watching her change his bandages in the weak beam of her flashlight. Iris worked in silence, her mind still spinning from yesterday. Preston knew her name, her address, Ethan's school. Every time the thought surfaced, her hands started shaking again. She reached for fresh gauze, and her sleeve slid up, exposing her wrist. Faint scars, old but visible. Parallel marks from being tied, yanked, held so tightly the skin had split and healed wrong. Wyatt saw them, his eyes locked on the marks, then lifted to her face. Iris realized what he was looking at, and yanked her sleeve down. But it was too late. She waited for the question, for judgment, for pity. She didn't want. Instead, Wyatt stayed silent. Just watched her with something that looked like understanding. The silence made her want to speak. I got married when I was 19, she heard herself say. To a man named Derek. Thought it was love. Turned out to be hell. Wyatt didn't interrupt. Just listened. 3 years. Every day wondering what I'd do wrong. What I'd get hit for. She looked at her wrist. I ran when I found out I was pregnant. Couldn't let my child grow up in that. Derek came after me. Drunk. Driving like he wanted to kill us both. There was an accident. He died. She lifted her eyes to Wyatt. I didn't save myself. I just survived long enough for fate to handle it. Wyatt was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was low, distant. When I was 12, Preston was 8. My father beat him with a belt for breaking a vase. Iris looked at him. This wasn't the billionaire anymore. This was a boy carrying guilt. I hid in my room, Wyatt continued. Could hear him screaming. Each lash, each plea. I covered my ears and waited until it stopped. His voice cracked slightly. Told myself I'd make it up to him someday. Gave him money, positions, everything. But never gave him what he wanted to be seen as equal, not charity. That doesn't excuse what he did, Iris said firmly. No, but it explains it. Wyatt shook his head. I have to live with my part in creating the monster. Silence settled over them. Two people with different wounds, same kind of pain. Wyatt reached out slowly, fingers touching her throat, where Preston's bruise still darkened her skin. She flinched but didn't pull away. He didn't speak. Just let his fingers rest there, feeling the mark his brother had left. In his grey eyes, Iris saw quiet rage, not at her, at Preston, at himself. You're not a victim, Wyatt said, voice low and certain. You're a survivor. There's a difference. Before Iris left that afternoon, Wyatt slid a silver ring off his finger. Heavy, with engraved initials on the inside. WK. You need to find someone I trust completely. He described the address, a bar in Southie called The Anchor. Middle-aged man, salt and pepper hair, sits in the back corner. Tell him the wolf needs his pack, then give him this ring. Iris took the ring, feeling its weight. Why can't you reach him yourself? Preston's taken control of everything. Any call could be monitored. You're the only one no one's watching. He met her eyes. You're my only way out. That night, Iris told Mrs. Chen. She had a night shift, drove to Southie after dark, found the Anchor tucked in a narrow alley with a flickering neon sign. Inside was dim, crowded, thick with cigarette smoke. She scanned the room, found him in the back corner, exactly as Wyatt described. Middle-aged, salt and pepper hair, back to the wall, eyes taking in everything. She walked straight to his table. The man looked up, wary. The wolf needs his pack, Iris said quietly. The man went completely still, eyes narrowed, sizing her up. Who are you? Iris didn't answer. Just set the ring on the table, combed it over, studied the engraving. Something in him broke open. Wyatt Kane is dead, he said, voice trembling. Whole world knows that. He's not dead. He's in a basement, badly injured, held by his brother. Cole's eyes went wet, rimmed red. The hand holding the ring trembled. 3 weeks. I've been tearing this city apart looking for him. He needs rescue, Iris said. Friday night. Can you do it? Cole studied her for a long moment. Who are you? Why are you helping him? Nobody, Iris said. Just someone who couldn't walk away. Cole nodded slowly. That's not nobody. That's the only kind of person worth trusting. They made their plan in the darkest corner. Friday night, midnight. Armored vehicle. Private doctor. Safe house outside the city. I'll get my people ready, Cole said. But we move fast. If Preston finds out, there will be blood. Iris left the bar, heart hammering. Didn't notice the black car parked across the street. Didn't see the man inside lifting his phone. Didn't hear the camera click. Everything she'd just done had been recorded. Friday night, close to midnight. Iris sat in Cole's car, parked 1 street away from the building. Her heart pounded so hard, she thought her ribs might crack. Cole checked his gun with practiced precision. Ready? Iris nodded, even though she wasn't sure. They moved through the night, slipping past the fence, across the lawn. The back door was still unsecured. Iris led Cole down into the basement. Wyatt was waiting, already sitting up. His eyes lit when he saw them. Cole, voice thick with emotion, he was trying to control. Cole dropped to one knee beside him, eyes red. 3 weeks, boss. Thought you were dead. So did I, Wyatt said, looking at Iris, until she showed up. They helped Wyatt to his feet. He was weak, but could walk with support. Cole on one side, Iris on the other, guided him up the stairs, slow step by slow step. Before stepping outside, Wyatt turned to Iris. No matter what happens, you stay behind me. Not a request, an order. They crossed the lawn toward the waiting car. 20 meters, 15, 10. Then headlights flared from 3 directions, so blinding Iris had to close her eyes. When she opened them, they were surrounded. Black vehicles in a wide arc, armed figures stepping from darkness. At the center, Preston walked forward, clapping slowly, victorious smile on his face. A house cleaner playing hero, he said, mockery dripping from every word. Iris's blood turned to ice. He'd known, from the start. The photos from the bar. She'd been followed. Another car rolled in behind Preston. Door opened. A man stepped out, and the air seemed to thicken. About 50, silver hair, expensive suit, eyes cold as a snake's. Roman Volkov. He walked straight toward them, gaze locked on Wyatt. Wyatt Kane, Boston's great king. Look at you now, bleeding, broken, rescued by a maid. Wyatt straightened despite the pain, shoulders pulling away from Cole and Iris. Faced Roman with pride that didn't bend. Roman, he said, voice cold. Still letting other people do your dirty work. Roman smiled. Your brother came to me himself, begged me to help him take what should have belonged to him. How could I refuse family loyalty? Stepped closer. I'm going to enjoy watching you die. And after, I'm taking everything you built. Preston moved to Roman's side, eyes burning with hatred. Kill them all. Make it look like a robbery. Roman nodded, glanced at Iris. The woman too. No witnesses. Iris felt her knees start to give. She was going to die here. Ethan would grow up motherless, the way she had. Everything happened in a heartbeat. Cole drew his gun before anyone could react. 2 shots cracked the air. 2 of Roman's men dropped. Chaos exploded. Gunfire from every direction. Iris was yanked down to the ground, Wyatt's body covering her, even though blood still leaked from his wounds. Somehow, despite his weakness, Wyatt grabbed a gun from a fallen man, fired, hit someone aiming at Iris, then another. She lay beneath him, hearing shots thunder, feeling bullets rip past them. Then Wyatt groaned, a raw sound he couldn't hold back. A bullet drove into his back as he bent over her. No, Iris screamed. Wyatt didn't collapse, stayed over her, still shielding her, even as his shirt darkened with fresh blood. Then, like a miracle, sirens sliced through the night. Headlights blazed in. More vehicles surged forward. Cole's backup. The reinforcements he'd quietly summoned. Roman and Preston looked around, realizing the tide had turned. Without a word, they jumped into their car. Tires shrieked as they disappeared into darkness. The remaining gunmen either went down or surrendered. Cole ran to them. Boss, we have to get you out now. Iris helped lift Wyatt, hands slick with his blood. He was pale, breathing thin, but conscious. Stay with me, she said, voice shaking. Don't you dare die. Wyatt looked at her, faint smile on blood-smeared lips. Not yet. I still haven't taken you out to dinner. The wooden cabin sat deep in the forest, 2 hours from the city by car. Nothing but trees and darkness. No neighboring lights for miles. Cole's secret safe house, prepared years ago for situations exactly like this. They carried Wyatt inside and laid him on the bed, in the main bedroom. He'd passed out during the drive, lost too much blood. His face was white as paper, lips drained of color, breathing so faint, Iris had to lean close just to feel it. The private doctor arrived 20 minutes later, older man with steady hands and eyes that didn't waver. He ushered Iris out of the room, shut the door, and began surgery right there on the oak bed. Iris sat in the hallway, back against the wall, staring at nothing. Her hands were still smeared with Wyatt's blood, dried and crusted. She didn't wash them, couldn't move, could only sit and wait. Cole sat nearby, shoulder bandaged from a bullet graze. He didn't speak, just waited the way she did. An hour passed. Then, too, Iris pulled out her phone, called Mrs. Chen. The elderly neighbor's sleepy voice came through. Noah's fine, honey. Sleeping like a rock. Don't you worry. Iris thanked her, and hung up. Then she cried. Silent tears sliding down her cheeks onto her blood-stained hands. Cried because Noah was safe. Because she'd almost died. Because the man behind that door had taken a bullet for her. When she lifted her head, the clock read 3 in the morning. The bedroom door opened. The doctor stepped out, exhausted, but expression softened. He's out of danger. Bullet didn't hit vitals. Needs rest, but he'll live. Paused. He wants to see you. Iris stood on trembling legs and stepped into the room. Wyatt lay on the bed, white bandages wrapped around his chest, face still pale, but grey eyes open, watching her. Something flickered in those tired eyes when she entered. She sat on the bed's edge. You almost died because of me. You almost died because of me, Wyatt replied, voice rough. Twice now. Silence. Just his shallow breathing and wind through the window crack. Then he spoke, barely a whisper. When my father died, I didn't cry. I felt relieved. He was cruel to Preston's mother, to Preston, to everyone except my mother and me. He paused. I built this empire, thinking I was different, better. But I'm not. I hurt people. Let Preston become what he is, because I was too busy being king to be a brother. His eyes shone. Not quite tears, because Wyatt Kane didn't cry, but close. You asked why I didn't want you to call anyone. Truth is, I thought I deserved to die in that basement. Payment for everything I've done. Iris took his hand, small in his but holding tight. Then why did you fight? Because you came back. He looked at her, grey eyes deep. And I thought if someone like you can see something worth saving in me, maybe it really exists. No kiss, no promises. Just Iris's hand holding Wyatt's. She stayed beside him until those grey eyes drifted shut, breathing evened out. For the first time in his life, Wyatt Kane didn't sleep alone. 2 days later, Iris brought Ethan to the cabin. Her apartment wasn't safe. Preston knew the address. With Cole's help, she quietly retrieved her son. Mrs. Chen was told they were visiting relatives. When Ethan stepped into the cabin, his eyes widened. Then he saw Wyatt, tall man with bandages, stern face, cold eyes. The boy stepped back, hid behind his mother's leg. Wyatt did something he'd never done. He knelt to eye level with a 7-year-old. You must be Ethan, he said, voice gentler than Iris had ever heard. Your mother talks about you all the time. Ethan was wary. Are you the man my mum saved? Wyatt smiled, real smile. That's right. And I'm going to make sure no one ever hurts your mother or you. Ever. Ethan studied him, weighing whether to believe, then nodded. That afternoon, Wyatt met with his loyal people around the wooden table, Cole standing beside him like a shadow. Transfer meeting tomorrow night at Meridian Hotel, Wyatt said. Preston announces I'm dead. Takes control. Roman will be there to witness. He paused. That's when I appear, but not alone. I've contacted the FBI through my attorney. Deal's signed. I deliver Roman Volkov in exchange for immunity. FBI will be there. Roman gets arrested. Everything ends. Later, Iris pulled Wyatt onto the porch alone. And Preston? What happens to him? Wyatt didn't answer. Jaw hardened. Eyes darkened. You're going to kill him, Iris said. He tried to kill me. He threatened Ethan. And if you kill him, you become exactly what he thinks you are. A monster. Iris stepped closer. The man who told me he hid while his brother was beaten. That man isn't a monster. Don't let Preston turn you into one. Wyatt didn't respond. Just stood there, battle raging inside. Revenge versus redemption. Next night, Meridian Hotel. 30th floor sealed off. VIP conference room with glass walls overlooking the city. Preston stood at the table, head in expensive suit. Smug smile. Around him, business partners, attorneys, officials. Beside him sat Roman Volkov, smiling with satisfaction. My brother Wyatt Kane passed away 3 weeks ago. Preston began. As only remaining family, I assume full control. Nods around the table. No one questioned. The conference room doors flew open. Wyatt Kane walked in. Black suit, no tie, grey eyes cold as ice. Behind him, Cole and 10 men. Preston's glass slipped, shattered. Face went pale as death. Hello, little brother, Wyatt said. Miss me? Roman grabbed his gun, started to raise it, but the back door burst open. FBI agents poured in. Weapons aimed everywhere. FBI. Nobody move. Chaos erupted. Roman slammed to floor, handcuffed, screaming curses. As they dragged him past, he snarled at Wyatt. This isn't over, Kane. It's over, Wyatt said, eyes empty. You should have done it yourself, Roman. Never trust a coward to do a killer's work. Wyatt cleared the room. FBI. Partners. Even Cole. 5 minutes. With my brother. Only 2 remained. Preston on his knees, shaking. We're blood. Preston sobbed. You can't do this. You stabbed me. Left me to rot. Threatened a 7-year-old child. Wyatt stepped closer. And now you talk about blood. I did it for us. Father never loved me. You had everything. I could have given you everything, Preston. You only had to ask, only had to be loyal. I didn't want charity. I wanted to be equal. Wyatt pulled out his gun. Preston collapsed, sobbing like a child. Please, I'm your brother. Wyatt stood over him, gun aimed at his head. Hand shook, not from fear, from the war inside. Remembered the 8-year-old being beaten, the screams, his own cowardly silence. Then he lowered the gun. I'm not going to kill you, because that would be mercy, and I'm not generous enough for that anymore. He turned to the door. Call FBI back in. I've got one more gift for them. Preston was handcuffed, screaming, fighting. Brother, I'm your brother. Wyatt. Wyatt didn't look back. Walked out, spine straight. At the corridor end, Iris stood there. She'd come anyway. When Wyatt came closer, she saw it. A single tear sliding down his cheek. Just one. Then he lifted his hand and wiped it away, as if it had never existed. 1 month later, Iris's apartment was swarmed by reporters. The cleaning woman who saved the boss. The story was everywhere. Cameras followed her to Ethan's school, to work, everywhere. Then one afternoon, a knock. Wyatt stood there, looking nothing like the basement man. Same black suit, no blood, no bruises, grey eyes softer when they landed on her. He held an envelope. Inside, check for $1.5 million. Deed to house in suburbs. Scholarship covering Ethan through college. She pushed it back. I didn't do it for these things. I know. That's why I want to give them. Not as payment, as a door. People like me don't get doors. Only walls. Then let me knock one wall down. His voice was sincere. Because you deserve it. Because Ethan deserves a chance to grow up without being afraid. Why me? Iris asked. You could have anyone. Because they'd want my money, power, name. You don't want any of it. He stepped closer. I want you to live. You saw me bleeding, broken, dying, and you came back. Not for reward, because you couldn't leave a stranger in the dark. I've had people fear me, use me, worship me, but you're the first who simply cared. Bedroom door burst open. Ethan ran out. Mom, is that the man you saved? Can he stay for dinner? Iris looked at Wyatt, most powerful man in Boston. Grey eyes waiting for an answer. She had every right to refuse. 1 step at a time, she said. But yes, stay. 6 months later, they married quietly at City Hall. Just Ethan, Cole, Mrs. Chen. No reporters, no noise. Ethan started calling Wyatt Dad the day of the wedding. The Second Chance Foundation officially launched, funded by Wyatt, run by Iris. Legal support, safe housing, job training for People's Society, ignored. Night after the foundation's anniversary gala, penthouse balcony overlooking Boston. Ethan asleep, Iris and Wyatt watching city lights. Do you ever regret it? Wyatt asked. Going into that basement? No, not for a second. Why? Because I found a father for Ethan. Found a purpose. But most of all, I found my voice again. And I didn't even know I'd lost it. Iris had once believed courage belonged to other people. But courage wasn't loud. It was showing up when shaking with fear. Speaking when voice was unsteady. Protecting someone when you couldn't protect yourself. Your voice has value even when it trembles. Even when nobody's listening. Even when you think you're too small to change anything. Because sometimes one voice is enough to break the silence. If difficult choice to help a stranger, your voice matters.